Find out what's making you sick and how to heal. Anthony William is the medical medium.
Hello, I'm Anthony William, and you're listening to the Medical Medium Radio Show, where each week I talk about the most advanced healing information and secrets about health, much of which is not found anywhere else and is decades ahead of what's out there now. You better believe it, because we're talking about Alzheimer's today. And so if someone has 10, 20, 30 years waiting for answers to any illnesses, regardless of what kind, including Alzheimer's, this is the place to be, because we are talking about advanced information nobody has. So we're doing Alzheimer's today. This is a very important show. This is the only show in existence that's out there where the information here is an information that's repackaged, recycled theory. So just repackaged, recycled, run-of-the-mill crap going around out there in the health field, both alternative and conventional. The information here doesn't come from any kind of medical interest group. Nope, it doesn't come from medical funding with strings attached. It doesn't have any of this. It doesn't have botched research behind it, thumb on the scale, with, where the money's paid and that you get into research and science, and there's all these investors into it. So it has all these interest groups and investors. So there has to be an outcome, whether it's right, wrong, or what, and the thumb's put on the scale, or everybody's going to be in trouble and there's hell to pay and people lose their careers and their lives and everything. So guess what? It's all polluted and corrupted. Nope, none of that in here at all. Internal kickbacks, none of that. Persuaded belief systems, no bias, persuaded belief systems are in the information on the Medical Medium Show. Understand how important this is. I know this is boring, and I talk about this before every show. Private panels of influencers. You wouldn't believe the private panels involved with every decision that goes out there for any kind of like garbage that's out there in the internet and in books and studies and all the different citations that are all the cited studies that are in other books and stuff. You wouldn't believe the private panel of influencers behind all that and what goes on. You have no idea. And health field payoffs in the health field, constant payoffs. Just dirty money everywhere, laundering dirty money everywhere with health field payoffs or trendy traps. Trendy traps are traps because some fancy doctor or somebody in the industry wants to hang their hat on something. They want to have some kind of legacy to hang their hat on. So what does it do? It throws you, though, and it doesn't fix the problem. And there's no trendy traps going on here. No way. It's important to know this stuff. The only information in this show is from a pure, untampered with, advanced, clean source, a higher source, the gift that was given to me since age 4. And if this doesn't sound interesting to you, look, I don't know what to say. Please stay on the show if you want to hear information you haven't heard before that helps people heal. Been giving people that information since I was 4 years old. Still doing it at this time. I'm glad you're here. Hey, look, I'm going to do a quick plug for 2 seconds. Check out my Medical Medium books, okay? Because I don't cover the information in all those books. It's impossible. I can't, and I don't. Check out Thyroid Healing. Give it a shot. Start reading it and give it a shot. Because, hey, we put everything into that. It's an amazing book. And I say amazing not because of me, because of Spirit, because it's all Spirit's information, every last word in there. Okay, so let's talk about Alzheimer's. That's what we're on today. It's a disheartening disease. It's a disheartening state and condition people have to actually go through and be in, both for families. You guys know that if you've had somebody, a relative or somebody in your family or a spouse or anybody, and you know then what I'm talking about. It's devastating. Alzheimer's is a devastating situation. It used to be called old timers. That's what it used to be called, old timers. And guess what? Back in the old days, the old timers back in the old days, they didn't have it as bad as they have it now with the Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's now is unbelievable. First of all, listen, if for years we've been being tricked and told that we're living longer and healthier. Just so you know that, for years. We've been told that all through the 90s, all through the 80s, all through the 90s, all through the 2000s. We've been told. And all through the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s, I've been saying to everybody I know, everywhere, and I even wrote it in the first Medical Medium book, but I said it long before then, that we're not living longer. We're living shorter, but no one's reporting it. No one's saying it. It's not out there. It's not being talked about. And So what this means is that people are having shorter lives. There isn't the 90-year-olds and 100-year-olds and 80-year-olds of the day in the nursing homes, in the assisted living, in they're not there anymore. They're not there anymore. I used to go into nursing homes in the older days when I would help out people, because I was working 24/7 and doing readings for people, medical readings, and getting the information they need and getting them better. And from morning to night, that's all I would do for year after year after year after year. And a lot of families would be like, look, can you go into the nursing home? Can you see my mother? Can you go into the nursing home, see my father? Can you go in there? And I would go in there in the older days, okay? And you would just see old people, real old people. They'd be like 100, and you'd see a lot of them. You wouldn't believe it. You'd just be a bunch of them, whole bunch of them in their hundreds. And then in the 90s, you'd see less, and then you start seeing some younger people. You say, wait a minute here. In the 90s, you'd see, okay, we're dealing with younger people now. How come there's like a 50-year-old in here? How come there's a 50-year-old in here? How's that possible? How come there's a 55-year-old here? And in the early 2000s, I remember going to nursing homes, and there'd be 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 30-year-olds. You believe it? 30-year-olds. With less 100-year-olds and less 90-year-olds and less 80-year-olds. And there'd be lots of 50s and 60s. Sure, there's plenty of people out there that are still in their 90s, and plenty of relatives say, hey, I still have an aunt that's 90. I still have an aunt that's 94. Sure, but it's nothing compared to what it was. It's a fraction to what it was, a fraction. And guess what? I think there has been a report, because somebody told me, someone say, hey, Anthony, did you know for the first time ever they admitted that life is actually on the decline? The life expectancy is actually on the decline, that it's actually declining? I said, it's been declining for decades. It's been declining. But no one wanted to face it, look into it, or know nothing. A simple understanding of it declining wasn't even coming out yet. And so, in Alzheimer's, it's kind of, not even a big part of that, believe it or not. It's not even a big part of it. It's declining because the amount of young people suffering with debilitating neurological diseases, unlike ever before in history. And that's the battle we fight every day. Somebody said to me, what battle are you in? I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I would say, so what battle are you in, Anthony? I said, what do you mean? You're about to tell me something. Come on, just don't string me along. What do you got? Are you going to make me ask Spirit so I can get ahead of you, or can I just enjoy this without having to ask Spirit to figure out what you're trying to tell me? Go ahead. And this person said to me, well, are you like, what side of the camp are you on? I mean, I know you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, so you're obviously on the plant-based camp. You're obviously in the vegan camp. I said, I love vegans. I love plant-based people. Love them. Love raw people. Absolutely. Incredible. I've seen people cure diseases that way. Absolutely. I've given people advice to cure diseases, whatever, and to move forward. They said, so you're all just in that camp? I said, no, I'm not in that camp. I'm not in a camp. They said, well, what camp are you in? Are you in the paleo camp then? Are you in that whole thing? Where you believe that, whatever, and you should be eating this and this? Or are you in the keto camp? This person asked. I said, look, I respect paleo people. Look, they're eating healthier than they ever did before. They're eating healthier than they ever did years ago. They're not just eating their high protein diets. They're actually throwing vegetables in there for the first time, and leafy greens for the first time, and green juices for the first time. Mostly because of the plant-based people. Actually, it was really infectious. Eventually, the meat eater experts said, well, how about if we try some green juice along with our meat eating diets? So I commend them. And they said, well, are you in that camp? I said, no, I'm not in any camp. I'm not in any camp. I go. And they go, well, then what's your battle? What's your war? What's your fight? Because everybody is fighting each other out there. They're using science to do it. So the vegans are using science. They're saying animal killers, of course, the animal killers. And it's horrible. It's hard. I mean, the animal killing is horrible. And then the paleo and the meat eaters are saying, you're not getting enough protein. You guys are starving from protein. Protein runs everything. Fat runs everything. You guys aren't getting enough protein. They don't say fat really runs it. They say, well, yeah, they're starting to do that now, which is bad too. So there's a war out there. There's all kinds of wars out there. Belief systems, different diets, different treatments. There's all this stuff. He said, well, then what are you in? I said, I'm in about giving answers. Real answers for the first time in medical history with chronic illness. That's what camp I'm in. If you want to call it a camp, it's not a camp. I'm in it for the people. Wait a minute. This person said, what do you mean you're in it for the people? I said, I'm in it for the suffering. I'm in it for the people. I'm in it for the ones that have diminished lives, the ones that have gone through hell. I'm in it for the ones that are sick and don't want to be sick. I'm in it for, because no one wants to be sick. I'm in it for the people getting better. I'm in it for womankind. I'm in it for mankind too. I'm in it for, you better believe it. I'm in it. He says, I don't understand still. I don't understand what you're talking about. I said, it's plain and simple. It's not about what side I'm on or what camp I'm in. It's about having the real answers. It's about having the truth regardless. It's not about fighting studies against studies. It's not about trying to hang my hat on anything. It's not about any of that. It's about getting people the answers. I swear to God, it's about getting people better, I said to him. You know what I said? I said, may a lightning bolt strike me dead, I said, right here, right now. May something fall out of the sky and kill me right now if I don't mean what I mean when I'm in it for people and the suffering and getting people better and getting the answers. And I've been in it since day one, since I was a kid, and I suffered for it. Because I'm not in it to hang a hat on something, on a stupid trend. I'm not in it to hang my hat on something. I'm not in it to guard one camp versus another. If the information Spirit provides means you don't eat meat, then you don't eat meat for that illness. That's right. If the information that Spirit provides means you don't do this, you don't eat a dairy product, then you don't eat a dairy product. No matter what side of the aisle you're on or where you're at. My battle isn't taking a belief system and fighting for a belief system. My battle is to never have a belief system. By golly, it's to never have a belief system. I said this to this person. It's to never have a belief system. The minute I have a belief system, I'm totally screwed. And I just screwed everybody out of getting the answers they need to heal. Because if I take a belief system and I adopt that belief system, in the end, I'm going to go down into the pit of death and no one's going to get better down the road. And we're just going to be moving forward like we're moving over and over again. And that's just going to suck. And you know what? I can't have a belief system. Spirit told me, because I was developing one when I was young, and Spirit knocked it out of me. Spirit knocked that belief system right out of me, just kicked it right out of me. I coughed it right up. Spirit just beat the hell out of me to get that belief system out of me, and Spirit did a great job doing it. Let me tell you something. Did a great job doing something. And I said to this person, I said, I swear to God, may something come out of the sky and just and kill me and just land on me right now. If I don't mean what I mean, that I'm in it for people and healing and the suffering and everything I've seen and everything I know. That I'm in it just to get them the right information so they can move forward and heal from Alzheimer's, the right information so they can move forward and heal from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of neurological conditions. The information so it's not contaminated, like I said at the beginning of the show. The information so it's clean and pure so you can literally turn your life around and move forward. And that's what I care about 100%. And it doesn't hold a belief system and it doesn't sit on a camp one side or the other. I put the 28-day cleanse in book 1. Because guess what? Because so many people are inundated with so many toxic foods for so long, and they're meating themselves, meaning too much meat. Absolutely. It's not a belief system. It's just what people do by accident because of another belief system. Meaning a belief system out there convinces people to eat so much meat that they can't then heal what they need to heal. All right? Just like if you're a vegan and a plant-based dude or gal and you're eating so much, too much plant-based fat. I mean, I know people in the plant-based movement, it's all about plant fats, just tons of plant fats. It's like, 3, 4, 5 avocados. It's coconut oil drizzled on everything. It's 4 tablespoons of nut butter thrown in their smoothies. It's too much fat. It's not about a camp or a belief system. You want to be plant-based to heal your condition, you lower that fat. That's information from spirit. You lower the fats. Why am I going with this? I'm going with this because guess what helps Alzheimer's? Just so you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, what is he going to talk about Alzheimer's? I am. I am talking about Alzheimer's. I am. I'm probably driving you crazy at the same time. Listen. So, and the same thing though, when you're in the other camp, the paleo and or whatever, the high protein diets, you're eating all that meat, whether it's chicken, whatever it is, you're just eating all that stuff. And it's all that fat involved, and there's lots of fat in it. And that's not good either. And so it's about breaking belief systems out there with truth, breaking them with truth from a source that it's not about a belief system. So when it comes down to Alzheimer's, we have to break belief systems or we're totally in trouble. And I said to this person, I said, so help me God. May God strike me dead if that's even possible. May something land on my head. May a lightning bolt hit me in the eye if I'm not saying what I'm saying. I said, because I'm dead up serious. I'm in the people's camp. Been a voice for people. Well, through spirit, with spirit. As I've seen what people go through and I've seen what they suffer from and I've seen and watched it all. And when it comes down to Alzheimer's, a lot of mistakes are made. Alzheimer's is on the rise, no question. It's going to be brain rot is on the rise like no other. Absolutely, it's definitely on the rise. Brain rot is definitely on the rise. What's brain rot? Brain rot is a whole bunch of toxic heavy metals inside the brain, leaching and running off and moving into tissue and destroying tissue, and cells and neurons don't get a chance to grow. Glial cells don't get a chance to bounce back and grow. Neurons don't restore. Neurotransmitter chemicals die, and they just disappear. And the metals take over, and they just oversaturate because the person's not doing something to take the metals out. What is the most important thing to do is stop animal protein, not because I'm against animal protein, not at all. Because when it comes down to Alzheimer's, it comes down to getting metals out of the brain. The blood has to be thin. You have to have thin blood. Plant-based is critical. 100% plant-based is critical for Alzheimer's and dementia. It's critical. Plant-based is critical. It's absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. And it's not just plant-based. It's low-fat plant-based. Low-fat plant-based. So that's critical for Alzheimer's and dementia. This way you can get the heavy metals out of the brain. Here's what happens when your diet's too high in fat, both from a vegan standpoint, both from a paleo or whatever, new paleo diet name that comes out every other day. I don't even want to mention them because I don't want to give them credence. Because what's going to happen is we have a very large listening following out there, and it'd be like, okay, wait a minute, did he just mention this new diet? Well, then maybe I should be on it. People are excited about diets. They'll be like, hey, if he mentioned it, even though he mentioned it in a negative way, maybe it's good. So whatever high protein fancy diet that's coming out around the corner, around the bend, there's been dozens of them over the last so many years. If it's high fat, you can't get the metals out of the brain. I repeat, if it's high fat, you can't get the metals out of the brain. And I know some of you are saying, oh, the brain's made out of fat. You need fats for the brain. Wrong. The brain's not made out of fat. We're going to cover that. Brain's not made out of fat. What kind of stupid idea belief system came from some source? The brain is made out of fat. I've talked to a brain surgeon before. I've actually talked to a couple over the years. So one brain surgeon said, there's hardly any fat in the brain. Hardly any fat in the brain. So you're right, Anthony. That's what this brain surgeon said. I said, well, why are we thinking there's fat in the brain? He says, I don't know. I don't know why that got out there. I have no idea. He goes, maybe it's one of those interest groups that just, did some kind of thing, paid somebody. And I said, so you know about those? He goes, I'm a brain surgeon. You don't think I don't know about how the industries work? That's what the brain surgeon said to me. So you don't think I know how the industries work? Yeah, it was probably just a paid for, grandfathered, stamped, thing that popped out from some study, some bogus study. A brain surgeon told me that. I said, so you know how that works. So you know that these things are really happening. Of course. He goes, of course they are. What are you kidding? And I go, yeah, I know. I do know about it, of course. I said, by the way, you happen to know more about the brain than a lot of my colleagues. And you didn't even go to school, he said. He said, how did you know the brain's not made out of fat? I said, it's made out of glycogen. It's made out of carbohydrates. It's made out of carbohydrates. Brain surgeon friends then had said to me, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I believe you're right. Because it's not made out of fat. It's built out of glycogen storage. But glycogen storage that has vessels running through it. Glycogen storage that isn't glycogen storage that redisperses. It's a different type of glycogen storage. But it's made out of carbohydrate, living carbohydrate. Our brains are made out of living carbohydrate with traces of squalene, traces of omegas, but traces, not a lot of fat. In fact, very little to very virtually none. Traces of omegas compared to the brain all on its own being what it is, made out of literally living carbohydrate glycogen tissue. And the brain is sweet. It's sweet. I've never eaten brain, but a lot of people have. They've eaten brains of rabbits. They've eaten rabbit brains. They've eaten cow brains. They've eaten all kinds of brains. Monkey brains. They've eaten there's lots of brains that get eaten out there. Goat brain. It's, across the continent, across the world. It's actually a practice. I mean, people have eaten brain. And guess what? It's sweet. It's sweet because it's sugary. Because the brain's made out of sugar. Brain is made out of sugar. And so what's going on is with the trend going today and everything, hey, brain's made out of fat. Fats are good. High fat diets, high fat everything. So the first thing you got to do with Alzheimer's is you got to go plant-based. I'm sorry, but you got to go plant-based. If you can't do it, then just eat one animal product a day and then move to mostly plant-based. I understand. Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. I may sound like, it's easy to do, but it's hard to do if you've been trained to eat animal products at high degrees and high levels. And so, whatever, whether it's from your family line or whatever, and you're just eating them and however, or you're picking up new, trendy diets and there's lots of protein. But just so you know, protein comes with fat. That's the whole point. It's all about high fat. That's how it works. So I'm telling you this is really important because you not only have to go plant-based if you want to reverse Alzheimer's, you want to reverse dementia, you not only have to go plant-based, but you got to keep the fats down low. It can't be a lot of avocado. It can't be a lot of hemp seeds. It can't be a lot of nuts and seeds. It can't be a lot of oils. You got to keep it down low, and you got to bring in the carbohydrates. They have to come in. You want to save somebody with Alzheimer's? You want to reverse it? You want to stop the disease at least? There's some advanced cases of Alzheimer's where it's just going all bad, and you just want to at least stop it because at least the family member is still able to chew, still able to eat, still able to talk, maybe not know exactly who everybody is, but at the same, or know where they can go or drive or anything like that. Maybe none of that going on, but they're at a point where you still want to save them and you still want to stop the disease and you still want to halt it. And you want to do that and you can do that. And then there's a lot of people with Alzheimer's where you can not only do that, you can reverse it. People have different levels of metals in different parts of the brain, and some parts of the brain get really destroyed. So it's not easy to come back, but you can actually get some people to come back all the way. I've had lots of people with Alzheimer's come back all the way, and I've had people with severe Alzheimer's dementia. I've only been able to stop it so they actually could stay like they were many more years than ever thought or expected by the medical doctors. And so that's what you want to do, at least. One way is you got to get the carbohydrates are critical, clean carbohydrates, critical, clean carbohydrates. That's what you need. What is that? Fruit. Lots and lots of fruit. What is it? Sweet potatoes. Lots of sweet potatoes. What is it? Summer squash, winter squash, kabocha squash. Not kabocha tea, kombucha tea. Kabocha squash, not kombucha tea. Okay? Kabocha squash. That's what helps a brain heal. Butternut squash, delicata, red curry. What else are there? Is there any other one? Sweet dumpling, acorn squash. I'm trying to randomly think. Is there any other winter squashes you guys know? You know any more? Are you thinking of ones I don't have my finger on right now? Sweet dumpling? Did I say that one already? Sweet dumpling? I think I got a few of them there. I'm ashamed I don't know more right now. I'm sure I do if I could really tap in, but I think I've forgotten a couple. Here's spaghetti, your classic spaghetti squash, which I'm not a big fan of because it's just not that sweet and yummy, and it doesn't have that great color in there, but it's still a good food. You better believe it. Those are incredible for people with brain diseases, and lots of fruits. All these beta carotenes. All these carotenoids, all these pigments, all these anthocyanins, all that stuff. That's what does it. It's not about fats. The brain's not made out of fat. The brain is made out of glucose, glycogen, carbohydrate. It's made out of that. And guess what? The more fat you throw into your body in your diet, whether it's the big animal protein diet or you got a plant-based diet with all that fat in there, guess what happens? Your blood fat rises and your blood fat gets thick and you get too much blood fat. And guess what happens then? You can't take the heavy metals out, the very thing causing Alzheimer's and dementia. You can't remove it out of the brain and you can't get it out. And guess what? If you can't get it out, how do you get somebody better? Buy into a whole bunch of supplements like some of these like gurus out there are selling so they can make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars? And you're just gobbling down pills and pills and pills, but nobody even knows how to reverse Alzheimer's? Yeah. Seen it all, man. Seen it all. So what do you got to do? You got to clean up the diet. You can't do the eggs. You can't do the dairy. I say that all the time. You can't do cheese. Did you know cheese is making a comeback as if it's a health food? Did you know it was called a longevity food recently? Cheese. This is a prime example of nobody knowing what the hell's wrong with anybody ever in chronic and mystery illness. This is why we're in the land of getting sick. Did you know? Did you know chronic illness is rising yearly like never before in history? Did you know it's on such a rise? It's unprecedented, literally, in the youth and or older people too. Unbelievable. And what just came out? That cheese is a longevity food. That falls under a bogus interest group study paid for by dirty money, paid for to promote fat. That's what that is, by the way, to promote fat, to fall into the high-fat diets. That's what that is. It's unbelievable. And what happens with cheese is the worst thing because it feeds every pathogen. And some people with Alzheimer's and dementia also have pathogens. They also have certain pathogens that are feeding off of the cheese, feeding off of the eggs, feeding off of some of these fats too, and feeding off of them and releasing even more poison and more poison and more poison, making it virtually unbearable or making it virtually impossible to reverse brain diseases. So stay away from the cheese and the butter. The butter. The butter thing, the butter in your whatever, the butter in your breakfast drink. I mean, that's just like, I can't even talk about that. It's so ridiculous. It's not even funny. Butter will feed every single pathogen. You know what butter feeds? The Epstein-Barr virus. It feeds it. The Epstein-Barr virus thrives off of butter, just explodes off of butter. Gives somebody a long-standing case of Epstein-Barr with every single symptom in the book. And you got trends out there selling that butter in your hot drink, selling fat in water now, selling butter in drinks. Meanwhile, it feeds the very thing behind autoimmune disease, which are viruses such as Epstein-Barr. Can you believe that? And worsens conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia. I know these shows recently have been a little tougher and a little harsher. And I know I've been kind of really pushing the envelope. But I'm at this point now in my life right now where I thought things were going to kind of get better out there. And I thought I wasn't going to have to work as hard still. I want a freaking break. I want a break. But when it can't even, nothing can turn around out there except for the information Spirit and I are giving to you guys and in the books that we write. But what's going to happen? What is going to happen? That's, you know what I mean? And it's all fun and games when you're feeling good and you're fine and you're 28 years old and you've got nothing wrong with you in the moment and you're feeling good and you can throw butter in your whatever drink and you just whatever and you go work out and you can go, that's great. But everybody's getting sick and it eventually comes. Whether they're 32, 35, 40, unless they do the right things and take care of themselves. And when they're 60 and they're getting Alzheimer's and they did the butter in their hot drink and they were feeling fine back 30 years ago, it's not going to be so fun when you're 58 years old and you're dealing with dementia. And we still don't learn from it and grow from it. It is unbelievably sad, unbelievable. So I've been a little harsh lately. I have. Not on you guys, just on the industries. It's on the industries. Yeah, take a deep breath. So you got to minimize the fats in the bloodstream. You got to get the diet right. Lots of fruits. I told you about the winter squash. It's incredible for somebody with any kind of brain disease. You got to be plant-based when it comes down to this disease, Alzheimer's, when it comes down to dementia. If you got nothing wrong with you and you're happy-go-lucky and all's good, you want to eat, chicken salad and have a few green juices, then fine. Fine. It all's going good for you. I'm not ripping that down. Just stay away from dairy and eggs still. Just stay away from gluten, stay away from dairy, stay away from eggs, stay away from pork, still stay away from things that I want you to stay away from. Absolutely. So you don't potentially feed a bug regardless and get yourself sick. But if you got something going on with the brain and it's neurological, or if you got something like dementia and you got Alzheimer's brewing or anything like that, you better be plant-based. So I'm just saying this. I'm bringing it home a little bit here. Plant-based people are going to be happy today. The plant-based people are going to be happy today. They feel vindicated a little bit. The medical medium's on their side today. Of course I am. I'm on everybody's side. I'm on everybody's side to get people better. But in this situation, 100%, you got to be plant-based. I'm saying it over and over again because what happens is you can literally get off the show. You're done listening to the show, and you can literally hop on the internet and accidentally be driven into a whole place of how fat cures, how high quality fats cure Alzheimer's. And then they'll take this case of this poor guy with Alzheimer's, and they've given him all this coconut oil and all these fats, and they've given him nothing but animal protein. And they say he's getting better because they took away his chocolate cake and his cookies and all the other garbage and all the lard and all that stuff that's in all the other stuff. They minimized that. So they have him on this other diet and he's starting to show improvements. And then they're heralding this is the greatest cure of all time, reversing Alzheimer's, when that's not how it works. Because guess what? That's bull, actually, that, yeah, you can get some improvements there, but it's not how it works. In order to get the heavy metals out of their brain and do what I've done for all these years is getting people with dementia completely reversed. What's critical, severe dementia, hallucinations, and depression and anxiety. I've been able to reverse people's lives around so they live a life of quality, not just a temporary, run-of-the-mill, quick little, hey, he's getting better, she's getting better because we cleaned up their diet a little bit, and look, it's because of high fats. That must be the answer. The brain's made out of fat. That is such bull, and you can glorify that. All you need is a little money behind whatever that is, and you can just glorify that as if it's a big win. It's not a big win. It falls through your hand like sand, and it's empty in the end. To really reverse Alzheimer's and do what you need to do, it's not about taking away processed food. It's about lowering the fats, like I said. It's about going plant-based and making sure you got critically clean carbohydrates going on in the body all the time. with mineral salts, like the celery juice movement that Spirit started. Like the celery juice movement. Did you know that Whole Foods can't keep celery in stock because of Spirit celery juice movement? Did you know that? I'm sure some of you are running into that. Literally, stores can't keep celery in stock because of that celery juice movement that Spirit started. And that is critical for Alzheimer's, is that celery juice. Juicing that celery juice and getting lots of bananas. Lots of bananas in somebody with Alzheimer's. Lots of bananas. Lots of wild blueberries. The heavy metal detox smoothie is actually one of the most critical smoothies of all for somebody with Alzheimer's. It's got the barley grass juice powder, and my favorite's the Vimergy. It's got the Atlantic Coast sea vegetable dulse. Sea vegetable dulse. I like the Atlantic Coast sea vegetable dulse. I'm probably not going to be able to find any now because after I say this in the radio show, it's all going to be gone. It's all going to be gone. This year's harvest is going to be gone, and I'll be without dulse. But I need you guys to have it, so I don't care. I'll sacrifice. So the Atlantic Seacoast, vegetable dulse. I love it. I love it. It's got to be Atlantic. Can't be Pacific. Except for some reason, they trashed their ocean over there. And it's just, I don't know why they would have done it, but they did. They trashed their whole ocean. They didn't have to trash their ocean over there, but they did. You would think the East Coast ocean would be trashed up north, way up north. It's not. But why they trashed it on the West Coast, I don't know. I hope to God someday they fix it. I really do. So don't do the dulse on the West Coast, whatever you do. It has to be on the East Coast. That goes in the smoothie with the barley grass juice powder, and then along with that, the wild blueberries. I have the heavy metal detox smoothie. I do, because heavy metals are still falling out of the sky. They're everywhere. You can get them in all different ways, including medical treatments people have been pushed into, along the way, whether they were young or whatever, and they push into medical treatments, whatever, and they got heavy metals, they got mercury in them, or from whatever, or from when you get dental fillings and all that kind of stuff, whatever. So the bottom line is you want the mercury out. You want the toxic heavy metals out. So I like doing the wild blueberries in the smoothie. I like that cilantro in the smoothie too. Oh, wait a minute. Cilantro, the world knew cilantro took out heavy metals. That's not your discovery, Anthony. Try again. Try again. I was 7 years old recommending cilantro. The internet didn't even exist. Couldn't even find literature on it. Wouldn't even be humanly possible, not even in a bookstore. And I was telling people it takes out heavy metals. So think again. It's just somebody, because someone said that to me a while back. I was like, yeah, well, try again. Try again, buddy. And, and I got proof I've been recommending it since 7 years old. I had actual proof, documented proof on top of it. So whatever. I'm saying this because not only do I know about cilantro, but I know what cilantro does that nobody knows what cilantro does. It has to be in the smoothie with the wild blueberries, the barley grass juice powder, and the dulse. And guess what? The spirulina. They all have to be in there together or on the same day. Eaten on the same day, or in the smoothie together, or eaten on the same day. They have to be there. Check out the the wild blueberry, the heavy metal detox smoothie. Check that out so you have the right levels of everything you want to put in there. That's more helpful for someone with Alzheimer's dementia and with any kind of brain disease like that than anybody even knows. And it's the only one I trust because of their heavy metal detoxification treatments and options and supplements. They don't cut it. They just don't cut it. They don't. I could rip them apart, and I know how and why, because I know the answers to what is good and what's bad, because that's part of my gift. But the thing is that the smoothie, heavy metal detox smoothie, that's amazing. So you want to get that with somebody with Alzheimer's dementia. Important. B12, the right kind of B12, adenosylcobalamin, methylcobalamin, and critical for somebody with Alzheimer's. Really, really important. Now, you don't have to be 100% no fat when you're trying to treat Alzheimer's or dementia. And listen, for the people who can't get their Alzheimer's relative or friend or somebody off of animal protein completely, then still have some in if you have to. I'm fine with it, but make sure you get the heavy metal detox smoothie in there because it'll still help. It will still help. Just try to lower the fats and maybe bring in other kinds of fats that are less aggressive, like the avocado, like the hemp seeds. And listen, for plant-based, for keeping the diet plant-based for somebody that has Alzheimer's, you can still have some hemp seeds in there. You can still have a handful of nuts in there each day. You can still have, half an avocado. You can still have a little bit of coconut oil. You can still have that in your diet when you're dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's just, what I'm trying to do is lower the fats, whatever side of the aisle you're on, whether you're on, high protein animal or you're on vegan or plant. You're trying to bring the fats down so the metals leave the brain. They can't leave the brain when the fat gets in the way in the bloodstream. Because when what's in the heavy metal detox smoothie goes up, and what is it trying to get rid of? Let's talk about that. What are we trying to get rid of? What are we trying to do? Here's how it works. When you have a heavy metal such as mercury in the brain, it oxidizes because the blood is too fatty to begin with. Fats oxidize, they oxidize metals. So when some fancy expert, well-known expert that's popping around the circuit talks about their fancy high-fat healthy diet for somebody with Alzheimer's, and the reason why that person with Alzheimer's is really improving is because they got this one person off of all the processed foods and the pies and cakes and the candy bars and all the other garbage. And they got them off of all that and the fried food and whatever they got them on. And they put them on a non-processed food diet, and the person improved a little bit. Every little bit counts. Absolutely. So when they go and they try to hang their hat on that one, they still don't understand something, that you're never going to ever remove the heavy metals out of the brain, stopping Alzheimer's, to stop Alzheimer's or dementia, if you got the fats high in the diet. Because the fats, no matter where they come from, what they do is when they do go into the brain, not to stay there, not to stay in the brain because the brain's made out of fat, when they do flow through the blood vessels of the brain, they touch metal and they oxidize the metal. The mercury literally bleeds and leaches like dirty runoff from a factory, like dirty runoff from a nuclear waste dump. It leaches and leaches. And when that leaches, it goes into adjacent glial cells, adjacent tissue, and adjacent neurons, and it starts to deaden neurons and start to destroy neurons. And electrical impulses start rattling against all the metal, and the electrical impulses can't go anywhere. They try to go places. That's why some people with dementia, they go just unbelievably crazy, because what's happening is the electrical impulses are looking to try to save the person's life, and electrical impulses start rerouting themselves, but not in a good way. When someone just has little speckles and pockets of metal, it's so much runoff by the time that person gets older and they get into the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And there's so much metal runoff in such a calamity and way, so much adversity happening in the brain, that the runoff is saturating every tissue outlet in the brain. So the electrical impulse is firing and running into metal everywhere, causing brain spasms, causing severe anxiety and panic in a lot of dementia cases that are out there. People, and they have to drug the heck out of them with so many toxic drugs to try to calm them down. This is what happens with toxic heavy metals. And what do? They still feed them high-fat diets, whether you're just this big old expert everybody looks up to or something out there on the circuit, or you're just someone who doesn't know better in a nursing home. You're still feeding them high-fat foods, and it's never ending. The runoff is happening and happening and happening. Okay? And so what else causes? It's mercury is the main source of dementia. It's also the main source of Alzheimer's, but the difference is here is that, and not every Alzheimer's case is the same, and not every dementia case is the same. Please know this. What this means is someone can have a lot of aluminum too, and someone can have a lot of copper in the brain, and someone can have a lot of nickel in the brain, and someone can have a lot of arsenic in the brain, but they can have a lot of metal in the brain. Metals work off each other. They interact in a bad way. They clash. Metals don't work good when you mix them. They work okay, certain metals, and you mix them and you wear a gold ring and there's a little bit of copper. I don't know what it is. I don't know gold and silver, but it's like 5% copper. Correct me. I don't know the answer to that. I have to be honest. You know what I mean? Gold. You got the Indian gold, they used to call it, or something. It was the old, the old gold. It had a darker rose gold color. And they had whatever. There's different kinds of gold. And you got 22 karat, right? 24 karat, 20 karat, whatever. And you got different metals thrown in there. A little bit of silver. Some mix. But some metals don't. Mercury and aluminum don't. Mercury and copper. Aluminum and copper, oh my God. They don't mix. They don't mix at all. They bubble up. They clash. They clash. They leach. They expand. They explode. And it's a nightmare. Mercury doesn't mix with anything. There's no metal on the planet Mercury will mix with. And so Mercury's just a liability, man. And we got it in our brains. We do. We do have it in our brains. We have it in our body. And we could do something about it. And when you're dealing with somebody suffering with Alzheimer's dementia, you want to do something about it now. So you want to take care of it. You want to get it going on. You want to get that mercury out. You want to get that heavy metal out. And guess what? You got to lower the fats, because fats oxidize the metals and make them worse. And nobody knows that yet till this day. I can't believe it. I remember 20 years ago, I'd say to Spirit, oh, Spirit, by far, everybody's going to know that one already, right? And Spirit would be like, I don't mean to break your heart, but probably not. And I'm like, what do you mean? 20 more years of having to kill myself trying to get this information out there to turn around the country and turn around the world? And Spirit's like, it's not going to be that easy. I never said it would be easy. I said, oh, man, unbelievable. But once again, here we are in the trending diets, all high fat, high fat, high fat. But what do? The experts do this. They remove all processed, and they find this one guy with Alzheimer's, and they give him mostly plant fats, but they keep his fats up high, but they take out all his processed foods, or they don't give him any plant fats, and they just give him, animal fats, and they take out all the processed foods. He improves just a little bit, and they're heralded as God. Heralded as God. It's ridiculous. That's not enough, and that's not even the right direction entirely. The processed food part is right. Other than that, the rest is wrong. If you want to get people really better and you want them to reverse some of the strangest Alzheimer's cases, meaning not everyone's the same, and I'll tell you why. Because the metals are in different parts of people's brains. Same thing with dementia. The metals are different parts of people's brains. They run off in different places. It's disastrous. Anyway, good supplements for Alzheimer's dementia. Coenzyme Q10, I love it for that. Curcumin, turmeric, but the CoQ10 is a great one. ALA, that's actually a good one too. Okay, resveratrol, that's a good one for Alzheimer's and dementia. Melatonin, most important one ever in the world. High dosages of melatonin, very important to reversing Alzheimer's and dementia. You can literally take someone on the worst processed food, high fat diet there is, and you give them enough melatonin, you'll start seeing results. You'll start seeing results. I'm just telling you right now. But melatonin is the arch enemy of the medical industry, because it stops a lot of things. It stops cancers. It stops literally virtually almost every cancer. Melatonin stops brain diseases. That's why you'll see a bunch of studies paid for to rip it apart and try to take it down, because it's a war out there. So just like that friend of mine, that person said, what battle are you fighting? What war? Said, I'm just working for the people, getting them the truth, like I said earlier. And the melatonin is actually incredible for Alzheimer's. You get somebody with Alzheimer's, you get them plant-based, and then you make sure you lower the fats and get lots of healthy, critical, clean carbohydrates in them, and lots of fruits. All kinds of different fruits, not just berries and apples and pears, all different kinds of fruits, melons and all that. You get with the mineral salts in the melons. And you get them on the celery juice every single day, those high mineral salts, from celery that nobody knows about, that are undiscovered by research and science, subgroups, clusters of mineral salts that are actually in celery that are undiscovered, that actually feed and recharge neurotransmitters. They create neurotransmitters so somebody with Alzheimer's can start to think again and know who they are. When you put that celery juice and you put that there and you give somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia a whole bunch of banana diet with the very thing hated, banana, by all of the so-called experts of the day right now, all the food experts of the day that hate banana, that don't even know the first thing about a banana and never even ate bananas in their own life. And you put somebody with, with dementia, you put somebody Alzheimer's with lots of, talking so fast because time's run out, with bananas, and you got that into wild blueberry smoothies, banana wild blueberry smoothies. You get them on the heavy metal detox. You get them on some of the supplements I mentioned. And you get them on that celery juice with the cluster salts, and you start recreating neurotransmitter chemicals, and electrical impulses start to find new territory in the brain because the runoff from the mercury and from the copper and the aluminum is starting to leave the brain because you've got the fats low in the diet for the first time in a person's life, because every diet out there is high fat in everybody. And they're all sick because of it, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. And then you reduce those fats, that person with Alzheimer's starts getting better and better and better. The person with dementia starts getting better and better and better. You better believe it. That's right. That's right. And that's what happens when you do the right things. When you do the right things. And there's other supplements too you can use. GABA helps people with Alzheimer's, dementia. It's something, a really good one, the pharma GABA. L-glutamine, that's a really helpful one for dementia and Alzheimer's. L-glutamine, that's a great one. L-lysine a great one, but L-glutamine is great. Glutathione is decent too. That's helpful for Alzheimer's, dementia. And there's even some lemon balm's good for almost every single thing. So just, if there's something wrong, just use it. For brain neurological, anything brain neurological, lemon balm's incredible because there's phytochemicals that are undiscovered in lemon balm that restore nerve endings. So it's worth throwing in there. Believe me, it's so worth throwing in there. But even if you just do the melatonin and heavy metal detox smoothie, and you go plant-based and up the critical clean carbohydrates like I talk about, and the winter squash and everything else, and the different fruits, the brain will recharge because the brain is made out of carbohydrate. It's made out of sugar. It's made out of glucose. Newsflash, I'm sorry for the doubters, and I'm sorry for the downers and the doubters that think the brain is made out of fat. They're entirely wrong. I'm sorry. And whether they think they're not wrong and they think I'm wrong, the fact is I'm right. Because guess what? Spirit's right. That's why. I told you about the story I tell you all the time. I was in the garden, right? I told you about that. I'll leave you with that one real quick for fun. Oh yeah, hydration also. Coconut water is good, not because of the fats in coconut, because coconut water itself has a high mineral sodium and potassium for neurotransmitters. Coconut meat doesn't have that. That's what I'm trying to say. The coconut water actually really is good. So it's a good one. So the garden story, right? Was with a neighbor. It was in my garden pulling up beets and onions and everything. I was working the garden. My neighbor said, I don't know how you fixed my wife. She couldn't walk for, decades. Couldn't even walk. Was in a wheelchair. And how did you have the answers? How is it possible? And I looked up and I said, because I'm always right and I'm never wrong. I'm always right. Never forget it. Never forget it. I'll never be wrong. Ever. And you better not forget it. That's why. And that's what I said to him, my neighbor. So then I got up, was shaking off the beets and onions. And I got up and I took a few steps and I stepped on a hoe, like a rake, and it slapped me in the face and it knocked me out. I was on the ground in the garden, flat on my back, completely knocked out. And as I was awakening, I saw my neighbor just standing over me. And then Spirit said to me, remember this, I'm always right. Spirit's always right. And you're always wrong. Remember that. And never forget it. I'm always right. And you're always wrong, because you're going to make mistakes because you're human. You're human, and you're going to be wrong about something. And you're going to be wrong about something in the health field. And you're going to be wrong about something in medicine because you're a human, and you're going to fall prey to something and fall prey to some trend or fall prey to some bogus study because you're human. So you remember, I'm not human, and I'm always right. And that's what Spirit said. I'm always right. And Anthony, you're not right. So you listen to me, and you'll have the information, because I'm always right as Spirit. But you want to make decisions on your own, chances are you're going to make a wrong decision on your own without me, Spirit. Anyway, you guys, that's why the information in the books is what it is. Okay? And if you don't like it, go get some other books then. but at least you know they're there for you and you can come back to them. Okay? Remember that. And you can come back to them. That some people, they just go off on their way and there's so much information out there. It's like, oh my God, what to believe in. And then they get sick and stay sick down the road and they end up coming back. And thank God Spirit put the information there to help them come back to it so they could find their way and at least know what's causing their illness, whether or not they do a protocol or not. At least they know what's causing it. I love you because that's half the battle. Remember that, and it helps. I love you. Just know I care. Take one day at a time. God bless you. I really care about you guys. And hey, see you next time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.